Welcome to Always True Crime, a podcast network bringing you gripping real-life stories that you won't be able to stop thinking about. Discover your next true crime obsession at alwaystruecrime.com.
Not only are all of our stories that we broadcast not similar, they don't even come in the same kind of wrappings. They don't get delivered by the same postman. They don't come to us through the same channels.
1977, and that's Larry Farber on WOR Radio, loosely talking his way around an interview with a British ex-spy, with the help of his producer, Diane Coulier.
Diane, Colonel Cottell is your assignment.
Well, Colonel Cottell contacted us over the phone one day, and I was immediately interested in the background about which he told me. He mentioned the resistance in Holland, and the resistance in France, and the fact that he had been in the British Army. And through speaking to him for a little while, I realized that his contribution had been great then and could still be great.
John Cottell is in America. I'm Eugene Henderson, and this is Codename Badger, a story of secrecy, espionage, and control that spans a lifetime. Episode 2, Poison Tooth. After spending 2 decades in and out of Josephine's life, John is now gone. He had borrowed more than £2,000 from her and left. She has no idea where or why. Over the years, John has become increasingly disenchanted with his superiors, his distaste for their methods leading to clashes with those in authority. So it's a relief for him when in 1974, he's sacked from the Secret Service. He's dismissed with no payoff and no pension. But at least now he can talk about his experiences within limits. In his interview with WOR, he tells of his time in Buchenwald concentration camp.
We had the terrible hospital which was run by Dr. Dingschuler.
The interesting thing about that was that you had told me that he was not in actuality a doctor.
No. He was a major in the German army, and he was called Herr Dr. Major Dingschuler. But I understand, after the war, I was told that he had no medical qualifications.
And there was experimentation at that camp.
Oh, yes, indeed. I worked in the hospital myself. I saw some of these terrible operations on Jews without anesthetics. My only wish is not to tell people of the terrible things that had happened. But it did have such an effect on my life and makes me feel as I do today. And I truly believe if that not had happened to me, I wouldn't care for the world as much as I do now.
Yeah, explain, like a time bomb in your head, why this exploded this many years after World War II and made you want to share your findings and your feelings.
Well, that isn't really true, Mr. Farber. I've always had a deep feeling. I've always fought for causes. This talking today is just possibly one way of conveying to people what I feel we owe people like that. One should know where we're going today.
When John mentions causes, he's alluding to the fight against communism, something greatly preoccupying Americans at the time in the last days of the Vietnam War. He felt it was his duty to speak about his wartime experiences as a warning. He's also a luncheon speaker, there to entertain fundraisers, mainly older women, with his stories of wartime missions. They hang on his every word.
Then you had this cyanide pill in it, so you could dispose of yourself.
He tells the story of joining the Special Operations Executive, or SOE. He's immediately thrown into the world of covert devices, some of them deadly.
I was given a lethal pill. I think it was called the American tooth, because I have the gap still today where a perfectly good tooth was taken out, and whilst it was still bleeding, an American screw-type tooth was screwed back into your gum.
That's him on WOR. Some US newspapers call him a real-life James Bond. But a better comparison might be Harry Palmer, the anti-hero spy portrayed by Michael Caine, briskly doing the dirty work of the Secret Service, often enmeshed in a world of double dealing. Now he's no longer with MI6. John's able to speak with some degree of freedom about his exploits. After his mission to Budapest during the Hungarian uprising, John's back in England. But there's little downtime. He discovers his cover's been compromised by a traitor within MI6 and flees to Dublin with a colleague. As they leave the airport, they realise someone's on their tail, a sleek grey Mercedes. They can't give it the slip, so John jumps from the speeding car and hides in an abandoned cottage. But the next day, his pursuers find him. After an ungainly scuffle in the undergrowth, John gets the upper hand and kills one man with a single karate blow.
I rolled the body into the muddy ditch and felt no pity for him, no more than he would for me.
Later, his colleague returns, but he's been shot in the leg, bleeding out as they head north for Belfast. His colleague doesn't make it. It won't be his last encounter with the KGB. While the shady dealings of MI6 are the stuff of spy novels, John's World War II exploits are really the stuff of comic books, and he's always happy to share more of his war. Through documents and interviews, we're able to piece together more of John's past in the years before he knocked on Josephine's door. After his initiation in spring 1943, a knife fight in the woods with a convicted killer, John trains at the headquarters of military spy organisation, the Special Operations Executive, or SOE, and there he meets Marion de Roubaix, a smart and beautiful Belgian spy working for the French branch of the SOE.
5'9" and slim, with slender, capable hand and a complexion made dusky by years under the fierce Congo sun, Marianne was courageous, steadfast, calculating and tough. A crack shot with both pistol and rifle.
It's a whirlwind romance, and they're married within months.
It was an intense life we lived in wartime London. The air raids continued, and at night we heard sirens and could see the searchlights sweeping through the sky. Marianne and I had a small flat. We knew the future was unpredictable, and it gave our time together a very special meaning.
But it's not long before John's on his first mission. He's summoned to 10 Downing Street by Prime Minister Winston Churchill and dispatched on a mission to Nazi-occupied Netherlands, where he meets a contact in the Dutch resistance, far behind enemy lines.
I was taken to a safe house near Arnhem, where I was told the man to whom I was to deliver my messages would appear. In the meantime, I was shown my hiding place under the floorboards. There was one board on a well-concealed pivot, and this was used to allow me to crawl in. It was dark, cold, and frequented by rats, and I was thankful for my heavy overcoat. I could hear noises upstairs, language that I had only a glimmer of understanding, doors opening and closing, and the usual sound of human activity as the occupants went about their day.
John completes his mission, but finds himself stranded in the Netherlands.
The leader of the group finally contacted me. I remember seeing a pair of lips through the boards and hearing the code that had been given to me. In silence, he received the information I had for him. He told me it would be difficult, if not impossible, for me to return to England. He told me that Nazi patrol boats had closed the ports. He told me German intelligence seemed to know of SOE plans in advance.
Trapped in Nazi-occupied territory, he's desperate to put his skills to good use.
I asked the resistance if I could work with them. I told them of my training in sabotage and demolition, and I knew they could always use more men. I waited several days before being notified that I could help. Twice German patrols entered the house, and once had a dog with them. I lay motionless, while the dog sniffed around the floor, but the owners had spread something on the boards to inhibit the dog's sense of smell. Eventually, I participated in 2 operations.
During those raids, a troop train and power station are blown up with Cottell's help. But things get too dangerous for him after this. With the Gestapo on his trail, he's no choice but to escape via the Comet Line, a Belgian escape route for downed Allied pilots, set up by André de Jong, known as Dédé. He travels south using false papers and aliases, and at one point disguises himself as a nun. Here's the real John again in the WOR interview.
I worked on resistance and on the Comet Line, which was an organisation of escape down through France, from Holland, Brussels, right down to the Pyrenees, to a place called Saint-Jean-de-Luz.
An escape route. For who? British and American flyers, or civilians endangered by the Nazis, or other agents, or who?
Well, for all kinds of people. People who had been working for the resistance, who came down there to get back home. Soldiers and airmen and sailors of all nations, American, British. I was a very small part of this group, but I would like to mention one person called Dédé de Jong. She was probably the greatest person who brought men down this escape route. I'm not able to say how many, but it was some hundreds, I believe.
After several months, Cottell makes it down the line and is helped through the Pyrenees into neutral Spain by a Basque man.
Florentino, a great mountain of a man, took us through this bad mountain road, through a river.
From Spain, he crosses into neutral Portugal, and then a flight sees him back in England for the first time in almost a year. John's not back in the country long, but it's long enough to conceive a child with his wife. And in 1944, his son Peter is born. And within weeks of Peter's birth, Marianne also has a mission to Belgium. On their final breakfast together, cooking sausages in their London apartment, he tries to persuade her not to return.
She turned to me and said, "I must go back, and if I can bring the close of this war 5 minutes earlier and die for it, I will."
It's the last time they ever see each other. Before the teenage father can get to know the boy, he too is dispatched on a mission, to Arnhem. It will end with him starving and half mad in Buchenwald concentration camp.
Hey, it's Tom from Always True Crime. Januaries are a time for dark mornings, cold nights, and true crime stories. On British Murders, Stuart Blues revisits the chilling legacy of serial killer Fred West. Speaking to West's biographer, they explore the disturbing details behind his crimes. And on Murder Mile, Mike investigates the unsolved mafia-style killing of André Mislas, a celebrity hairdresser gunned down in Hyde Park. Who ordered the hit and why? Lights low, headphones on, and let the truth unfold. Listen to British Murders and Murder Mile wherever you get your podcasts. Or discover more shows at alwaystruecrime.com.
When John returns from Buchenwald, he is unwell in body and mind. He's given desk duties and the grim job of filing and sorting pictures of concentration camp inmates and displaced refugees. Hidden amongst this stack of grainy, tragic images, he sees a face he recognises. Marianne. Emaciated, naked, standing beside a hastily dug grave. This is now a familiar type of photo. He knows that moments after it was taken, that hole would become her final resting place.
She had a look of absolute defiance on her face, a vision I carried with me all my life. I took one look, fled from the office, and got very drunk.
Despite being in poor health and still reeling from unfathomable traumas, John makes a drastic decision. He leaves his infant son in the care of Marianne's Belgian parents and goes to track down her killers.
I hitched a ride to Paris with an RAF squadron leader I knew who was based at RAF Wittering. Once there, with the help of the Sûreté, I began to piece together Marianne's movements after her arrest. As a British Army major, I was able to move about quite freely. From there, my search took me first to Switzerland, then to Holland. I spoke with another victim of the horrors of Ravensbrück. Later, an SS prisoner at the Santé prison in Paris confirmed the identities of our executioners. I knew what I had to do.
In May 1946, he travels to the northern German city of Luschau, where he tracks down one of the killers, an SS corporal.
There at their home, I shot both him and his wife.
John murders not only one of the Nazi officers, but the officer's wife too. From there, he has 2 more brief postings, but he's showing signs of a breakdown, and he's flown to Malta and then home. So John returns to the UK a widower, just as the Cold War is starting to tighten its icy grip on Europe.
I don't think I would ever have stopped drinking after seeing that picture. But there was always Big Brother to bring me back, hand me fistfuls of money and look after me, a broken-down major. Why? Because they knew they could use me. They kept telling me, "Surely you want to make sure that your wife didn't die in vain."
2 years after the end of the war, John goes to Buckingham Palace to receive the Military Cross from King George VI for his bravery at Arnhem. But what does a wartime spy do when wartime has ended? He gets a job photographing holidaymakers at Butlins, of course. If you're not from the UK, it's hard to describe Butlins in Skegness, but it's about the furthest thing from James Bond imaginable. In post-war Britain, before the advent of package holidays and cheap flights, there were holiday camps. The joke at the time called them prison camps with entertainment and a bar. Skegness is in Lincolnshire, a blustery patch of England's North Sea coast, frequent home to lashing grey rain and slate-coloured sea. Butlins hosted knobbly knees competitions and the promise of a week's holiday for what you'd normally spend at home. They also run holiday princess competitions. And in 1949, one of the finalists is 22-year-old Shirley Allen, an attractive dark-haired girl from Luton. She catches John's eye, and by the following year, they're married. But it isn't long until John is dragged back into the shady world of espionage. Someone is needed to keep a close watch on Soviet ships operating off the coast of Devon, and John has been handpicked for the job. The newlyweds move to Payton, and as a cover for his covert operation, he takes a job as a beach photographer, working with a pet monkey.
This is a picture of John Cottell sitting in Payton, Devon, with a monkey.
Josephine's daughter Nikki gave me a picture of this version of John. He and his monkey sit next to each other on a harbour wall. Below him, women in flared skirts walk beside a row of beach huts. John is handsome with dark hair and a short beard. He's wearing sunglasses and shorts. He's bare-chested and strong-looking, with broad shoulders. He's looking down at the small monkey beside him, who seems to be wearing a polo shirt.
He brought the monkey to our house one day, I remember that. And I think there's a mention in my mother's diary of a monkey. That was the day that he brought it. It is a curious picture.
It was this John who entered Josephine's life in 1956. Tanned and handsome, but carrying the damage of wartime, both mentally and physically. 2 decades later, John has left Josephine behind and gone stateside. Now in her 50s, she's remained in Devon, working at RAF Boscombe in the research centre, where she had discovered a talent in the burgeoning field of computing. It's easy to see Josephine in this story as a tragic figure, frozen in grief, often vague. So it's important to know that she was also extremely intelligent and had been offered a place at Oxford University, only for the war to intervene. Here's her son, Andrew.
She didn't really go to school much when she was young, and she went to school when she was 14, I think. And she had a sort of governess or something before that. And then there was the war, so she never really had a career just looked after us. When she did have a career, suddenly she found she could do this amazing mathematical stuff. She found that she was very good at not just understanding how to work a computer, but actually understanding languages. And she could write in languages. And she got a job at Boscombe Down. And she would sit on a little middle of her sitting room with her legs outstretched and hundreds of bits of paper around and scribbles on it. And she would say, sadly, my bosses don't really know what they're doing. It's very difficult because, they don't really understand. And she was working out all these computers to get the computers on the Harrier jump jet to talk to each other, because it couldn't fly unless it's 7 computers, maybe 6, maybe 8. But anyway, a lot of computers on board talk to each other. And she spent a lot of time with that. And also the Comet, the AWACS system. She worked on that.
She's old-fashioned, stoic and deeply religious, which brings her comfort in the wake of Robbie's death and John's absence.
She was very religious. She felt a complete union with God, and it's something that I never understood. But she explained to me that she had these experiences in life. She was totally committed to God and religious beliefs.
As Josephine herself wrote in a letter,
"The older I get, the more I know I am definitely a Christian and could never be anything else. One certainly has plenty of problems, but also plenty of help on that path."
But John's departure to the US has left a void in her life. Not only had he provided company, he also held the key to unlocking the mystery of her husband's sudden death.
We were just left in this complete vacuum.
Here's Josephine's daughter Nikki again.
So we couldn't process our own grief at losing our father, which was a terrible thing, really terrible thing, because he was a man full of energy, full of life and full of fun, He just got up and did things, and we all beach parties, and we had, endless things that he did. He was just the energy of the household. And when he died, the place went flat completely. And because of John, she couldn't share anything with us at all.
In the wake of her husband's death and John's appearance, then disappearance, Josephine became increasingly distant. Paralysed in the uncertainty of Robbie's death, unable to grieve or move on, she seemed to withdraw, even from her children.
She didn't value herself as a person. She didn't think her feelings were important. John Cottell was the thing that mattered to her. She let us do our own thing. She never interfered with anything. I went to medical school. She never once asked how I was doing, having qualified. She never said, well done. She never asked what jobs I was going to do or was interested to do. She just took no interest in any of us. She turned up if we asked her to turn up for something, but she was only interested in pursuing the truth about her husband's death. That seemed to be what it was.
She was very secretive about an awful lot in her life.
With John now in the States, it seemed that this period of her life was over.
Quite a few years, Joe, since we last met.
What she doesn't know is that in a not-too-distant future, she will step back into his world of secrets.
I have been thinking this past couple of weeks that I might send you a signal.
And John will end up on the front page of newspapers across 2 continents.
What is true and what's false? Who is my father?
That's next time on Codename Badger. This has been Codename Badger, an Audio Always production. Presented and produced by me, Eugene Henderson, and Andy Clark. Our executive producer is Elsa Rochester. Sound designed by Craig Edmondson.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want to listen to the entire series ad-free, it's available on the Always True Crime Patreon. You'll find exclusive bonus content on there too, and all our other true crime box sets. Go to alwaystruecrime.com to join the Patreon community. Want more true crime? This podcast and loads more are part of the Always True Crime Network. It's packed with box sets to binge and twisted tales you won't find anywhere else. Find your next podcast obsession at alwaystruecrime.com.